Hey, what's up, everybody? This is an open discussion with C3 Films. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we are talking about the founder of Diabolism. And I think I said that correctly, but there might be a way to properly say that. You guys tell me. But what this is it is a Chinese anime that we found on YouTube. And we are going to be getting into spoiler territories for the first two episodes. So if you haven't seen it, it is on YouTube. You can watch them for free on that platform and go ahead and let us know what you thought about it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, I have never heard of this. This is completely new for me, and we decided to watch this as partially a celebration for Chinese New Year. But I would not have come across this on my own. So, you're the one who obviously told me about this. How did you even find this?
Well, my mom was watching it and she really liked it, so she kind of got me to watch it with her when we were hanging out. But while I was watching it, I was like, you know what? I actually think that you would like it because it's basically a really nice anime. Like the animation is really good and everything, and because it's not like your typical anime, it's quite
Mm-hmm.
different. And I actually thought the story was intriguing too. I had watched, I think, the whole thing a long time ago, but I don't remember. I don't remember everything. It's like kind of slowly coming back to me, but I can't really remember everything. So it was as if I was watching it again for the first time. Um, what I can tell you, though, is that it was based on a graphic novel, I believe, or at least a novel at
Mm-hmm.
first.
I think it's a novel.
And the reason why it's so interesting, I think, or one of the big things that made it a standout, in my opinion, is that it's actually kind of a love story between two men, which is very taboo for Asian culture. But they made this, and the story actually turned out to be really really good. And it has all of the like typical elements that you would have in an Asian live action drama, and
Mm-hmm.
it being like a period fantasy piece. So all of that, it's like very very Asian. It's very common for just Asian shows in general. But yes, it did. So there's a graphic novel or novel. I can't remember which one. And then there's this anime that we watched, and then there's another separate show made by different people. That's a live action version of it. So there's all these different versions of it, and this one that we're watching is just a different take on, or a different adaptation of the novel.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know what to think about it going in. Like, I didn't have any prior knowledge other than you suggesting that we watch it. And so everything came as a surprise to me. I was very surprised at the level of animation because I've seen a lot of anime, and a lot of anime nowadays, they like the animation is definitely improved today over how it was in like the early 2000s and the 90s and stuff like that. But the quality of this animation, especially considering that I didn't know how animation studios were in China as far as them making animation. So the quality of this animation really surprised me because it's very high quality and it has very good um, compositing between 3D animation and 2D animation in the same world. Really dynamic camera movements. One of the things that's really stands out when you watch an action anime is how the fights are choreographed, and this has very well choreographed fights that aren't just choreographed well from the movements of the characters, but also how the camera works in tandem with the movement of the characters. A lot of weaving in and out and stuff like that. It's very, very cool, um, and very well done. So the animation automatically caught me, pulled me in. The music, I love the music, and I think it seems like pretty, I guess, standard fare, but it works and I like it a lot. And then the characters. The characters are the next thing. Now we've only seen two episodes, so it's not too much time to really get to know people. And a lot of the characters we meet later in the second episode seem very similar as far as like the stoic, silent type. But I enjoy the main character for what he is and the story behind him because it sounds like he was a spirit that of a person that used to live that also seemed to be a necromancer of some type, which is interesting to have a main character that has a necromancer ability and he is occupying the body of someone who summoned him and that person it sounds like the person summoned him to get revenge on three people, which happens right away in the first episode. So now my question is, why is he still occupying that person's body?
Right. I think he had mentioned something about how if he doesn't finish the three tasks that because he had like three marks on his hand, and once those are completed, then then he gets to keep the body. He basically said that
Oh,
that if he doesn't do it, then the spell won't hold and he won't get to keep the body. So he had to fulfill the will of the summoner. So then there was also this other part where in the second episode where the guy with the purple lightning
mhm.
weapon,
The whip, the
um,
purple lightning whip.
yeah, it separates a spirit from a body that if the spirit possessed the body, but it didn't work on him because it was willfully given to him. So that's why it
Right.
didn't work on him. So it's like they were saying that the guy was like a crazy guy. So I guess like he it just seemed like an easy way to be like, let's bring him back to make the show. But yeah, I mean, um, it, pretty much what you said. He was I guess like I do remember this part because I had watched it before, like I mentioned. Without spoiling too much, there's basically four clans, like they said at the introduction, and he was in one of the clans, and so he actually knew these older guys that you meet in the first and second episode, and at some point he died, like he was basically murdered, because everyone turned against him for his use of black magic, or
Right.
the black arts, dark arts. And so then it was they said that it was possible to like summon him, but no one could really do it. And so now he's back. He's been summoned, and so he's kind of seeing where they are now that they've become adults. Cause and and I think it was like at the end of the second episode, they basically put us back in the past, and I can tell you now from like then on, at least in the anime for a while, we get to see them when they're kids, and
Okay.
so that's where the story really begins.
Hmm.
And that's when we get to see the dynamic and the relationships that they all had together. Um, Another interesting thing that I think you might want to watch at some point when if you like watching this anime is to watch the live action version, because I think it's a fun comparison because I had also watched a little bit of that. I didn't finish that one, but I did
Hmm.
watch the beginning of it, and the opening scene for the live action version is like, whoa, it's really powerful. Like the effects and stuff are not like that great. It's pretty low budget. It looks kind of hokey, but it's still good. It still looks good. But the storytelling and the way they open it, like they hook you pretty good. So
Okay.
I would recommend watching that as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I probably will continue watching this. I don't know if I'll continue watching it like right away, but I'll probably continue watching it to see how the story develops and everything. I was surprised by the level of action. Like, there's a lot of action in these first two episodes. They really hit the ground running. And I also wasn't sure how, I guess, mature it would be when it came to the violence. And it's not like super gory, but someone gets impaled and you see the blood and stuff like that. So there's some of that in there. But the fight sequences are very well choreographed and very fun to watch. And it's cool to see how our main character is trying to help these people, because it seems like the person, like, he's actually a good person. At first I wasn't sure when they said that he was killed for using the dark arts. I assumed that maybe he was probably evil. um but it turns out that he is legitimately trying to help these guys survive these situations, fighting these demonic arms or like demons or whatever it is in these worlds that are trying to kill them. Um, but he's trying to do it while still keeping his identity and his powers a secret, because he understands that that's why he got killed in the first place. So, but it's interesting that in the second episode, one of the people I think that knew him in his previous life, that sees this new version of him use the dark arts, rather than get angry and criticize, he legitimizes it by saying he's using it for the right reasons or doing the right thing with it. And then even the main character himself says, "Wait a second, but when we were younger, he used to hate the fact that I use this, but now he's being polite about it. Like, it's been 20 years. How much has changed, you know?" So I like the fact that you're telling me that we do get to go back and see what the relationships were before, because I did find that it was kind of a challenge to try to immediately connect the dots between the relationships of all these characters, of who he knew in the past versus who he doesn't know, who's new for him, and all this other stuff. But so I like the fact that the story will get to the point where you get to see what happened before.
Yeah, it definitely it for me it definitely kicks off in the third episode, and that's when I think the fun really begins. And it kind of cuz I feel a little bit like these first two episodes are like Naruto Shippuden style, and then when you start episode 3, it's like Avatar Last Airbender. So
Interesting.
there's like that kind of shift there because they're all kids, and then you get this friendly dynamic, and you get to see like how their relationships progress and how it got to that point at the beginning. So I think like the first two episodes are supposed to hook you, like the mystery, like what is going on here, like why are they like not liking each other and stuff. There's obviously a history here, and then right when you start asking those questions, they're like, well, let's take you back 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah, and I mean that's a common thing, to try to just hook you as soon as possible, which probably explains why there's so much action in the first two episodes. Because I imagine that when we go back in the past, in episode three and probably a few episodes onwards, the action probably dies down a little bit for more story. Oh no, it
It's
doesn't.
still good. It's still good. Yeah, there's still
Oh,
plenty of
okay.
action and fighting and stuff like that. And there's also comedy. There's a little bit of comedy in the first two, especially like with the donkey that
The
he named
donkey.
Apple. So there's more of that. It gets a little bit more. I think it's more funny later. And actually, I wish we both had time to watch the third episode, because if I can recall, there's a really, really good fight scene with the two of them on a roof. And that's like a really good fight scene.
Nice.
So
So the the story that this is based off of, because you said it was like either a graphic novel or a novel, is that, do you know if that novel itself is based off of any type of like lore, or any type of cultural lore, or is it something that's completely fictionalized?
I have no idea,
Okay.
but
Good.
probably, I mean, there's inspiration coming from everywhere, right? So it's
Yeah.
probably inspired by some kind of lore that was turned into something else.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, because the world that they build is one that I can definitely be familiar with. A world of magic and demons that's like really easy to get into. One of the things that did kind of surprise me is when so obviously we can recognize the clans, the different we've met. I think we've met two clans, and we can recognize them by the colors that they wear. And so when he comes across that one kid that's wearing um the yellow color for the outfit, and the moment that kid gets insulted, he immediately pulls out his sword and starts slashing at the main character. And the first thing I'm thinking is, wait a second, are you actually trying to kill him? Because it also sounds like he knew the person's real body, but in this moment, he's just actively trying to cut him with the sword. Like he doesn't even have a sword. You need to calm down, dude. What is wrong? What is wrong with you? But then you find out also that that kid has a lot of pressure on him because he's up here being told that if he doesn't perform or doesn't do get something big, then he might as well not even be able to come home or whatever. So still no excuse, but I think one thing that did surprise me, and it's fine, it's a show, it happens, but how willing these people are to draw swords on each other, knowing that if they're not good enough, you do realize swords will kill you, right? So at times I'm like, are you actively trying to kill this person, or are you just how good they are, so you just trying to like cross swords and like maybe kick them a little bit. But yeah, that was one
It's
thing that just kind of surprised me as far as like those specific characters. Not everybody is like that, but those
yeah.
characters were.
I mean, it's basically the genre of this type of show, I guess you can say. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very common for Chinese dramas to have lots and lots and lots of swordplay, and it does not always make sense. But also, like for period pieces like that, people are like totally chill with like killing each other and not having, that was like the thing, kind of like a western, right?
Yeah.
Where like people are just like shooting each other and there's like no consequence. It's kind of like that, but with swords, and it's totally a genre of Chinese films. So, and I dig it. I mean, I really like, one of the things that I really liked about this anime is the combat. Like you mentioned earlier, the way that they're framed, like the composition and the choreography. It's so good. It's like you almost forget that you're just watching a cartoon because
Mm.
of how like detailed it is, and it just looks really pretty. It looks really good. Um, and it's hard to watch it because I need to read the subtitles, and so I can't like watch every little thing on the screen because like half of my attention is reading. But then when you get into like the fighting and stuff, you just get to watch the fighting. It's like, wow, it
Yeah.
looks real good.
And I will admit, like, this is my first time watching um anime that has a Chinese language dub, because it's from China, obviously. But anytime I've seen anime, it's always been either with a Japanese dub or an English dub. And so, as far as audibly, my ears are trained to associate a certain art style with a certain type of sound that comes with it when it comes to the spoken language. So visually when I'm looking at this anime, but I'm hearing a language that I don't understand and doesn't sound familiar, all of a sudden it's like, in all honesty, at first it was jarring for me because my brain was telling me I need to be hearing Japanese right now, or I need to be hearing English right now. But these tones and things that I'm hearing, they're just like I don't recognize them with this art style. So initially that was just like a little jarring for me to jump into, but I mean then eventually I just got used to it because I'm used to hearing the language spoken. I just was not in this context, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely different. And even like the drawings, like yes, it is an anime, but it doesn't look like an anime.
Mm-hmm.
It's very just something else of its own, you know. It I can't think of a different anime where the drawings look, similar in terms of style. It's really its own thing.
Yeah, which is very cool. Um, you said that you watched this a while ago. Do you have a time frame for how many years ago?
Probably like 3 years ago.
Okay, so it's not it's not that old. It's like
It
probably
doesn't
within
look
like
old.
yeah, because that's what I wanted to check because depending on when it came out, I was curious what this animation if this like because if this came out in like 2010 and it had this animation, I would have that would have been very surprising because that's very top notch. But if it came out in the last 5 years, then that is a little bit more believable as far as like or understandable from what we've seen. But yeah, like not much else for me to say about it, just that I did enjoy it and that I probably will continue it because I saw that it's around 23 episodes I think long before you get to the end, and each episode's around 34 minutes, so it's a little longer than your standard anime episodes which clock in around like 23, 24 minutes, so it's like 10 extra minutes of content. Um, but I think what's there is interesting. I'd be very curious how the story is going to continue to develop because I wasn't sure if it was a love story. I did get the feeling that these two men had like a connection, but I wasn't sure how far the story was going to go with that. And then I also wasn't sure if there was going to be an overarching narrative for the story. Like most stories we see, there's like some type of primary villain that's trying to do a thing, and everybody's trying to band together to stop that villain. I wasn't sure where this story was going to go as far as what was going to be the through line to the end.
Yeah, I think maybe it's a little bit soapy, because I don't really think that there is a villain because he is basically the villain,
Right,
in the story, how it's presented, but he's also the hero. So,
right.
so it's kind of one of those cool backwards things where it's not your traditional, storytelling, or the regular narrative. So
Hmm.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, did you notice the theme song that I really like? By the way, it's catchy, but they use that tone. That they use that same melody
Hmm.
for different parts, of the show, and usually it has to do with the two guys.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Okay.
And then also, I don't know. I just really like the way they introduced the two guys because, they both play an instrument, and
Yeah.
at the beginning, the opening scene, he's like this cool guy playing the flute like on a tree, and he's like controlling the zombies, and it's like whoa. And then you have this other guy come out, and he has a zither. It's actually called a guzheng, which is a
Okay.
Chinese harp, that I used to learn how to play. But anyways, I have one. But anyways, I just thought it was cool because like the way he like strums it, it's very like it just feels like a western, and it's just like, oh, now this cool guy, this a hotshot cool guy who, for some reason, they can control things and use instruments as weapons, which is also another common thing they do in Chinese shows. Instruments are weapons, and I was like,
I like
this.
it though. I think that that's different. Like I mentioned how I like the fact that the main character uses necromancy, but I also like that he controls the necromancy with a flute. When I was hearing it, they were saying that, oh, he doesn't even play the flute that well. It sounds so bad. I was thinking to myself, I was like, I thought it sounded good.
Yeah, I was like, I can't play a flute. And didn't he make the flute like right then and there?
Yes, he no,
Right.
he literally did. He cut off a piece of bamboo. Like he ran, cut it off, and then just yeah, next thing you know, he's playing it. So I had actually forgotten about that until you just brought it up. So yeah, it was pretty cool. I like that element of it, using instruments to fight or control things around you, like the elements or creatures.
Yeah, I like it.
So, but yeah, but that's everything from me. But is there anything else that you had that you wanted to like bring up about the show?
No, those were all the main points that I had. I just wish that we had time to watch more. Kind of like Midnight Mass, but anyways, it's not the same, conundrum that we had because we could still talk a lot about it.
Yeah.
But I definitely encourage you to finish it, and if you have a chance, at least watch the first episode of the live action series because you will maybe want to watch more. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm a fan of the way they opened the live action series. So
Gotcha. I'll definitely check it out as a form of comparison, and yeah, and I'll when I do finish the anime series, I'll let you know. So then maybe you and I can just talk about it offline or whatever. But what did you guys think about it? Have you watched The Founder of Diabolism? Am I saying that correctly? First off, is there a proper way to say it that I'm not saying it? And have you seen the different mediums that this story has taken place in? Have you read the novel or graphic novel? Have you seen this anime? And have you seen the live action? And which one was your favorite way to experience the story? Whatever you thought about it, comment below. Let us know. And while you're down there, if you give us a like, share, subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I've been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, and Happy New Year!